What happens when Seoul's most feared crime boss walks into a boutique and his entire world shatters? Not from a bullet, not from betrayal, but from the sound of one woman's voice. A woman who doesn't know she just awakened something in him that doctors said was dead forever. This is a story about brokenness, power, and a love so intense it defies medical impossibility. If you love stories about unexpected romance, redemption, and passion that changes everything, you're going to want to hit that subscribe button right now because this one will leave you speechless. Let's dive in. The sleek glass entrance of the luxury boutique whispered open. Inside, crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across polished marble floors. The air hung heavy with expensive perfume and privilege. Every handbag, every coat, every shoe seemed to whisper wealth. He walked in slowly, his steps echoing like gunshots. Every staff member froze. Kim Jang, Seoul's most dangerous crime boss, had entered the building. His tailored black suit hugged his powerful frame. A diamond watch gleamed on his wrist, and his expression could have been chiseled from stone. People who saw him rarely dared look him in the eye. Those who tried usually regretted it. But today his mind wasn't on power. He'd come to shop, or at least that's what he told himself. He adjusted his cufflinks, ready to browse the racks of luxury clothing when a warm, musical voice cut through the silence. "Welcome to Essence Boutique," she said. He froze. The owner herself had stepped out from behind the counter. A breathtaking black woman with flawless dark skin, natural curls framing her face, and a confidence that made the entire store suddenly feel smaller. Her name tag read simply Jasmine. Her smile was warm, bold, and slightly teasing. "What can I help you find today?" And that's when it happened. Something inside him broke. For 18 months, he lived in shame. After the brutal attack orchestrated by his enemies, doctors told him he'd never function as a man again. His body had betrayed him, left him feeling barely human, less than who he'd been. Beautiful Korean actresses had tried to seduce him, but every attempt ended in humiliation. They always left whispering behind his back. But now, here in this store, just from the sound of Jasmine's voice, his body responded. Strong, fierce, undeniable. His manhood stirred, hardened, burned with an intensity he hadn't felt in years. Panic gripped him, his jaw clenched. Sweat broke out on his forehead. He looked down immediately, unable to face her kind eyes. His chest tightened, not from fear, but from shock. "What's happening to me?" "Excuse me, are you okay?" Jasmine tilted her head, curious. Her voice was soft but confident, the kind of voice that demanded honesty. He couldn't answer, couldn't think, his breath caught like he'd been punched. Without saying a word, he turned sharply, rushing toward the exit. The guards outside stumbled back confused as their boss pushed past them. The door chimed again, and just like that he was gone. Inside, Jasmine blinked, stunned. "What just happened?" she whispered to herself. "Did I scare him away?" That night, Kim Jang stood in his penthouse apartment, staring at the city lights. A glass of whiskey trembled in his hand. The moment played in his mind over and over. The smile, the voice, the warmth of her greeting, and the humiliating, magnificent truth that followed. For the first time in years, his body had awakened. He slammed the glass down hard, cracking the table surface. "This can't be real," he muttered to himself. "I'm losing my mind." Yet no matter how many times he told himself that, he couldn't erase the memory. 3 days passed. He couldn't eat. He couldn't focus on business. His men noticed his distraction, but none dared question him. Finally, desperate, he called his doctor. "You're saying you experienced arousal?" The doctor's voice on the other end was skeptical. "Yes." His tone was sharp, defensive. "That's impossible. Your tests are clear, Mr. Kim. It must be psychological. A phantom sensation. Nothing real." But Jae-sung knew what he'd felt. The fire was too real, too powerful. He leaned back in his leather chair, rubbing his temples. "Maybe I'm crazy, but I can't deny it. I want to see her again. Actually, I need to." The following week, he found himself back at Essence Boutique. This time, he came without his guards, a crime boss walking alone into vulnerable territory. That was unheard of. But for once, he didn't care. The door chimed, and again, her voice reached him. Back so soon? Jasmine's lips curved into a playful smile. She wore a fitted cream dress that highlighted her curves, and her eyes sparkled with interest. I didn't expect the famous Kim Jang was the shopping type. He tensed, his heart pounding. The same reaction happened again. His body stirred uncontrollably at the sound of her voice. He flushed, actually flushed, and quickly grabbed a random jacket from the rack. "I'll take this," he mumbled, avoiding her gaze. Her laugh rang out, rich and lively. "Are you sure? That one's 3 sizes too small. Unless you're planning to gift it to one of your associates." His face burned. He threw the jacket on the counter, grabbed another, then another, buying them all without checking the prices. Jasmine leaned forward, resting her arms on the counter. "You know most men don't come here alone, and definitely not you. Why is Seoul's most feared man suddenly a regular at my store?" The boldness of her question made his breath catch. Nobody dared speak to him like that. Nobody. And yet, instead of anger, he felt something else, something he hadn't felt in years. Alive. That evening, as he carried bags of clothes he didn't need, his men whispered in confusion. But Kim Jang ignored them. His mind, his heart, his entire body, everything was trapped in a loop. Her voice, her smile, her teasing. For the first time in years, Kim Jang, the ruthless crime boss of Seoul, felt powerless, and he didn't hate it. The next morning, the streets of Seoul hummed with activity. Honking cars, neon lights, and the constant flow of people chasing fortune in the shadow of the Kim Corporation building. But the atmosphere was tense. Kim Jang sat at the long mahogany table in the conference room, his lieutenants surrounding him. They were discussing weapon shipments, rival gangs, and debts owed. But Jang barely heard a word. Instead, his mind kept drifting back to the boutique, to her, to Jasmine's mischievous smile, the playful glint in her eyes. "Boss, should we move the shipment to Incheon?" one of his men asked carefully. "Handle it however you want," Jang muttered, waving him off. Everyone at the table went still. The boss never spoke like that. Usually his word was law, sharp, deliberate, final. Today he was distracted, passive, and that alone was dangerous. By noon, he'd made a decision. Without explanation, Jang dismissed his security and got into his black Porsche alone. No convoy, no backup, just him. The streets parted as the crime lord drove through Seoul, his expression unreadable, but his heart racing. When the boutique's glass doors opened again, the chimes sounded almost mocking. Jasmine was there again, in an elegant black pantsuit that hugged her figure. Her hair pulled back stylishly. She looked up, recognized him, and smiled. "Well, well," she said, her voice warm but playful. "If it isn't Mr. Mysterious back again. You know people will start thinking you own this place." Jang froze mid-step again. His body betrayed him instantly, burning fiercely at her words. He cursed internally, struggling to maintain his composure, his jaw clenched in a tight line as he walked toward a display of clothing. Jasmine followed, her heels clicking softly against the marble. "What's going on? Silent treatment, or are you here to buy me out again?" He said nothing. Instead, he grabbed a random black suit, then another, piling them in his arms like a nervous teenager. "Interesting." Jasmine crossed her arms, amusement dancing across her features. "You know, Mafia bosses usually intimidate store owners, not panic buy." That word, panic, made his teeth grind. For a moment, his old self, the ruthless boss, almost flared back to life. But when he looked up and met her eyes, the fire melted into something else entirely, something softer. Jasmine leaned in closer, lowering her voice to almost a whisper. "What's the real story here? Why do you keep coming to see me? And alone?" Jae-sung's throat tightened. Nobody dared question him like this. Not his men, not his enemies, not the police. But this woman, this shop owner, spoke to him as if he were just a person, not a monster, Not a kingpin, not a killer, just a person. For the first time in years, he felt exposed under someone's gaze. He swallowed hard and forced his voice steady. Do I need permission to shop? Jasmine tilted her head, smiling. Not at all. But you don't seem like the type of man who buys 12 suits in one visit without trying them on. Either you're terrible at shopping, or there's something else. Her audacity both unsettled and excited him. He turned sharply, walking toward the register, placing the suits down. Wrap them up. Yes, boss, she teased, her eyes twinkling as she started organizing them. The way she said boss, not in fear but in mockery, made him bite the inside of his cheek to hide the smile pulling at his lips. Meanwhile, across the street, a black car sat parked. Inside, members of a rival gang watched with suspicion. Why does Kim Jang keep coming here? One of them muttered. He's always alone. No security, no convoy. Strange. Maybe the boss has a weakness. Their eyes narrowed. In the criminal world, rumors spread like wildfire, and the idea of the feared Jae-sung showing weakness in a public store, that was something enemies could use. Back inside, Jasmine handed him the bags. There you go. Mystery man, a closet full of clothes you'll probably never wear. To her surprise, Jae-sung chuckled softly, almost shyly. The sound startled him. He hadn't laughed like that in years. You're brave, he said, finally meeting her gaze. And you're strange, she replied with a smile. But at least you have good taste in stores. For a moment, their eyes locked, the air thick, heavy with something neither of them could name. Jae-sung's heart hammered, his chest full of longing and confusion. But then his phone buzzed. A message from his second-in-command. Enemies spotted nearby. Be careful. He ground his teeth, grabbed the bags, and turned toward the exit. Jasmine called after him, her voice soft but full of curiosity. See you soon, boss. Don't be a stranger. The words hit him like a bullet. See you soon. As he stepped into the night, Jae-sung knew one truth for certain. He couldn't stay away. That evening he stood at his penthouse window again, watching the city blaze with neon. He should have been planning strategies, hunting enemies, strengthening his empire. Instead, he thought about Jasmine. The way she teased him, the way she wasn't afraid, the way his body obeyed her voice like a command. And for the first time in years, Kim Jang, the ruthless crime boss, admitted something to himself. I want her, not for business, not for pride, but for myself. Real, desperate, and true. The night air over Seoul hummed with neon light. But Jae-sung's penthouse was quiet. He sat alone in his room. The city spread before him like an empire he no longer cared to rule. Stacks of contracts and documents lay on the desk, ignored. His mind kept circling back to one truth. One woman, Jasmine. Her laugh, her teasing, the way she looked into his eyes like he wasn't a monster or a legend, but a person. A person who could blush, a person who could stumble, and worse, she was the only one who made him feel alive. By morning he was already outside, his Porsche headed back to Essence Boutique. He hated how badly he needed this, hated the desperation burning inside him. But he also couldn't fight it. The boutique's glass doors chimed again as he entered. Jasmine was behind the counter, flipping through a fashion magazine. Today she wore a deep red pantsuit that hugged her figure like a second skin. She looked up, her lips already curving into a smile. Well, look who it is, she said smoothly. The man with more suits than days of the month. Jae-sung froze as always. The moment she spoke, his body betrayed him instantly, heat rushing through him, his pulse quickening. He gripped the edge of a display table to steady himself, forcing his face to remain blank. Jasmine tilted her head, studying him with interest. You know, Mr. Kim, I've been thinking. Either you really love my store, or you're running from something. He finally met her gaze, dark eyes narrowing. And what do you think I'm running from? Her smile widened. Yourself. The words pierced him. For a beat, he forgot to breathe. Jasmine laughed softly, breaking the heavy silence. Relax. I'm just playing. But seriously, what's the deal? You never come with security, never bring anyone. You just buy clothes like it's therapy. Jae-sung's jaw clenched. If only she knew, if only she understood how much power she unknowingly held over him. Instead of answering, he grabbed a sleek black coat from the rack. This one, he muttered. Jasmine came around the counter, moving close enough that her perfume wrapped around him like a spell. She reached for the coat, her fingers brushing against his hand. He flinched. Her eyes flicked up, sharp and amused. Are you nervous?
No.
The lie tasted bitter. Yes, you are, she teased. The famous crime boss. Nervous around a shop owner. If people knew this side of you, it would make headlines. His lips twitched, not quite a smile but close. For once, he didn't feel like destroying someone who mocked him. For once, he wanted to see more of it. Across the street, the black car was back. Enemy eyes watched through tinted glass, their concern growing sharper each day. He's here again, one whispered. And again without security. This woman, she must mean something. If she does, she's his weakness. And weakness is vulnerability. Back inside, Jasmine carried the coat to the register. So tell me something, she said softly, folding the fabric. Why does a man like you, famous, feared, wealthy, keep coming back here? He opened his mouth, but no words came. The truth clawed at his throat. Because you woke me up. Because I thought I was dead inside until you spoke to me. Because I can't stop thinking about your smile, your voice, your touch. Instead, he muttered, I like your store. Jasmine rolled her eyes. Sure you do. She leaned closer across the counter, lowering her voice to almost a whisper. You know, if you keep buying all these clothes, I might start thinking you're trying to impress someone. The air thickened instantly. Her words hit him deep, stirring images he couldn't control. Her in his arms, his lips on hers, her voice breaking in pleasure. His throat tightened, his body burning, his heart racing like a man facing his final battle. He clenched his fists. Not here, not now. That evening, Jae-sung's second-in-command finally confronted him. Boss, the man said carefully, the enemies are talking. They say you've been distracted, that you're spending too much time at a shop. Jae-sung's gaze snapped up, sharp as a blade, and the man hesitated, sweat on his brow. They say you're weak, that a woman has your attention. The room went deathly quiet. Jae-sung rose from his chair, his presence suffocating. Do they think a woman can destroy me? His man bowed his head quickly.
No, boss.
But people are watching. If she means something to you, she's in danger. The words hit him like a punch. He dismissed his man with a wave, but the thought clung to him long into the night. Danger. For Jasmine, the only person who'd made him feel alive again. 3 nights later, he returned to the boutique again. This time after closing hours. The city was quiet, the street lights dim. He knocked softly on the glass door. Jasmine appeared inside, startled but smiling when she recognized him. She unlocked the door. You again? Do you ever sleep? He walked in, his presence filling the space. This time there were no customers, no noise, no distractions. Just him, just her. I needed to see you, he said finally, his voice low and rough. Her playful smile faded into something softer. She studied him, seeing the weight behind his words. Then stay, she said gently, gesturing toward a velvet couch. For the first time in his life, the ruthless crime boss obeyed. The city was restless that night. Rain poured over Seoul in heavy sheets. The streets slick with water and neon reflections. Somewhere in the chaos, shadows moved. Enemy factions who'd been waiting, watching. Kim Jae-sung had made himself predictable. Every few days he was spotted slipping into the boutique alone, without guards, without protection. For the first time in years, the ruthless crime boss had a pattern, and patterns could be exploited. The attack came fast. Jae-sung had just left Essence Boutique, arms full of shopping bags he didn't need, when the car screeched to a stop at the corner. Black masked men poured out like wolves, guns gleaming in the rain. He reacted instantly, his reflexes razor-sharp, dropping the bags, pulling his pistol and firing. Each shot precise, deliberate. 3 men dropped, but 5 more came charging. A blade sliced across his side, hot pain tearing through him. He fought like a cornered animal, his rage painting the night red. But there were too many, and his strength faltered as blood soaked into his shirt. A car alarm blared nearby, scattering the attackers as headlights cut through the storm. The enemies fled, leaving him staggering in the rain, wounded and furious. Instead of calling his men, Jae-sung did something reckless, something unthinkable for a crime boss. He dragged himself back to the boutique. By the time he collapsed against the glass doors, Jasmine was inside, counting her earnings for the day. She gasped at the sight of him, soaked, bleeding, his black suit clinging to his body. Jae-sung. Her voice was sharp with fear. She rushed forward, unlocking the door and pulling him inside. What happened? Nothing, he muttered, his voice hoarse, teeth gritted in pain. Just a scratch. She glared at him. A scratch? You're bleeding all over my floor. He collapsed into one of the velvet chairs, his breathing shallow. The ruthless crime boss who terrorized Seoul now sat slumped like a wounded boy. Jasmine's heart pounded. She grabbed a first aid kit from the back room, hands shaking but determined. Take off your shirt, she commanded. He smiled faintly through the pain. You're bold. Don't test me right now, she snapped. Do it. Slowly, he obeyed, peeling away the blood-soaked fabric. Jasmine's eyes widened at the sight of his scars. Old wounds crisscrossing his chest, fresh cuts from tonight's fight. His body was strong, powerful, but broken in places. She cleaned the wound on his side, pressing the cloth firmly. He hissed, muscles tensing, his jaw grinding. Hold still, she whispered, her tone softening. You act like you're made of stone, but you bleed just like the rest of us. For a moment, their eyes locked. The distance between them shrank, heavy with something unspoken. Why didn't you go to your men? She asked quietly. Why come here? He swallowed hard, his gaze burning into hers. Because I trust you. Her breath caught. The words were simple, but in them was a weight she couldn't ignore. As she bandaged his wound, the air grew thick. His body was close, his breath warm against her face. Her hand lingered on his skin, longer than necessary, tracing the scars as if reading the story of his survival. You're crazy, she whispered, shaking her head. A crime boss showing up at a woman's shop, bleeding. Do you want to get me killed? His lips twitched, half smile, half grimace. If they come for you, I'll kill them all. Something inside Jasmine shifted. This man was dangerous, broken, unpredictable. But in his rawness, she saw something real, something no amount of money or power could fake. Her fingers brushed against his, and the spark was undeniable. Jae-sung leaned in slowly, his usual confidence stripped away. For once, there was no mask, no ruthless facade, just a man wanting something he thought he'd lost. Their lips met. Soft at first, hesitant, then deeper, hungrier. Jasmine gasped against him, her heart racing as his hand cupped the back of her neck, pulling her closer. The kiss was desperate, a storm breaking after years of drought. He kissed her like a man starving, like the world might end if he didn't taste her. When they finally pulled apart, breathless, Jasmine's eyes were wide. What was that? She whispered. His gaze burned into hers, dark and real. The truth. Outside in the shadows, unseen eyes watched the boutique through rain-streaked glass. An enemy's voice whispered into the phone. He cares for her. He's bleeding and he went to her. This is his weakness. And with that, Jasmine's fate was sealed. The city outside sparkled like 1,000 diamonds scattered across the night sky. High-rise buildings glowed. Cars hummed on the streets below. But in the penthouse apartment of Kim Jae-sung, the crime boss, time felt like it had stopped. Jasmine stood by the massive glass window, her reflection shimmering against the lights. She wore a simple silk robe he bought her last week. But on her body, it looked like something made for royalty. Her hair fell in soft curls around her face, and the warm smile she gave him was enough to strip every ounce of hardness from his chest. Jae-sung leaned against the edge of the couch, his heart unsteady. For days he'd dreamed of this moment, feared it, craved it, waited for it. The attack, the pain, the humiliations from doctors and failed encounters with actresses had carved deep scars inside him. But here she was, this black woman named Jasmine, breaking every barrier of his broken body and stirring a fire that had been cold for too long. "Jasmine," he said, almost afraid of his own words. "I don't know how to do this right." Jasmine turned, raising one eyebrow, her lips curving into a teasing smile. "And here I thought the crime boss always knew what to do." He laughed nervously, running a hand over his face. "Not with you. With you, I feel like I lose all control." "Then lose it," she said plainly, walking toward him, her footsteps soft against the floor. "I'm not afraid." That was the final barrier. He took her hand, pulled her against him, and kissed her like he'd been starving his entire life. His mouth crashed against hers, strong, desperate, full of hunger that had been buried in silence for too long. Jasmine moaned into the kiss, her hands clutching his shoulders, feeling the raw intensity trembling inside him. He lifted her effortlessly, carrying her to the couch as if she were the most precious treasure he'd ever owned. When their bodies touched, he moved like a man on fire. Not reckless, not uncertain, but burning with an intensity she'd never experienced before. It wasn't just physical. It was proof. Proof to himself that he was alive. Proof that the attack hadn't stolen his manhood. Proof that with her, he was whole. Jasmine could barely breathe under the waves of passion he poured into her. He touched every part of her like he was memorizing her body. His hands moved with a mix of reverence and urgency, as if each touch could erase the years of doubt inside him. "Jasmine," he whispered hoarsely against her neck. "You don't understand. This feels like the end of the world, like if I don't give you everything right now, I'll die." Her heart twisted at the broken honesty in his voice. She cupped his face, forcing him to look at her, his dark eyes glistening with tears he was too proud to let fall. "Then live like the world is ending," she said, her voice soft but commanding. And he did. Jae-sung moved with a hunger that made Jasmine's body shake. He was both gentle and wild, romantic but fierce. Every movement, every kiss, every touch saying, "I'm alive because of you." Hours passed, but it felt like one long, endless moment. When they finally collapsed into each other's arms, breathless and trembling, he buried his face in her chest like a child seeking comfort. His powerful body shook, not from exhaustion, but from the overwhelming relief of being free. Free from shame, from fear, from loneliness. "I thought I was broken," he confessed, voice muffled against her skin. "All those nights thinking I was half a man, and then you." He pulled back, looking at her with a mix of awe and disbelief. "You gave me back everything. Jasmine, you healed me." Her eyes softened. She ran her fingers through his messy black hair, smiling at the man who moments ago had seemed so untouchable, so terrifying to the world. To her, he was just human, real, vulnerable, and hers. "Maybe you were never broken," she whispered. "Maybe you were just waiting for the right woman." That hit him harder than a bullet. He kissed her again, slower this time, tasting every bit of sweetness her lips carried. From that night on, he knew Jasmine wasn't just another woman. She was his cure, his miracle, his salvation wrapped in silk and laughter. And for Jasmine, the shock of his passion that night left her stunned. She'd never been loved with such desperate romance, such intensity, as though the man was writing his soul onto her skin. She realized she wasn't just helping him reclaim his strength. She was falling into something much deeper than she'd imagined. For the first time in his violent, turbulent life, Jae-sung whispered words he never thought he'd say. "Don't leave me. Ever." And for the first time in hers, Jasmine answered without hesitation. "I'm not going anywhere." The city outside kept sparkling, oblivious to the storm of love inside the penthouse. But in that room, under the glow of soft golden lights, the crime boss and the shop owner sealed something more powerful than any contract, more dangerous than any enemy, and more unbreakable than any scar. Love, real, unstoppable, and burning like the world was ending. Hey, beautiful souls. In this story, we learn that no matter how broken you think you are, the right love can make you whole again. Thank you so much for watching.